evening, Ghana, and welcome to The Hard Truth. Now, tertiary education is supposed to give the young populace an edge when it comes to securing meaningful employment. Yet, over the years, we've seen an increase in graduate unemployment in this country. We've been told that this is largely as a result of our universities training unemployable graduates who are not fit for the job market. So, we know the problem now, but how effectively are we solving it? Our universities rising up to the task. My guest for tonight is Professor Kwabena Agyapong-Kodua, Vice-Chancellor of the Pentecost University. And listen, during his induction as Vice-Chancellor 2 years ago, he said he was going to turn Pentecost University into a world-class research and problem-solving institution. Now, how has he lived by his words, or was he just a normal rhetoric? And what is his outlook for tertiary education in Ghana? You are watching The Hard Truth. My name is Nana Akosua Asante-Samuels. Welcome to The Hard Truth, sir.
Thank you very much. Amazing.
Prof, good to have you.
Good to have you too,
I'm really excited, and thank you so much. Short notice, but thank you.
Thanks for the wonderful. Yes. I'm glad I'm here. Thanks a lot for the wonderful opportunity too. Good.
Now, sir, I am very much interested in your personal philosophy regarding what a model university should be.
Great.
What do you see as the hallmark of a well-run tertiary institution?
Right. Thank you very much. Like I said, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the wonderful opportunity. Right. So back to the question of my perspective on what a world-class university should look like. The essence of education is basically to solve problems, fundamentally. So all trainings, being it even a second cycle or tertiary, must be geared towards first the identification of problem, then the needed skills or techniques or technologies to be able to solve those problems, and also the drive to actually doing it. So when we're talking about world-class universities, they are basically universities set up to solve problems in homes, problems in societies, problems in the economy.
Practically, what problems are you solving right now at Pentecost University?
Right, we've divided our problems into the various units we have at the moment. So if you take healthcare, we now have the Faculty of Health and Allied Sciences. And unlike, you see, universities generally, let me just step back and explain this. University generally can be classified into teaching and research. Teaching basically has to do with someone picking a textbook, looking at the content and going out there to impact knowledge. So that is knowledge dissemination. But in actual fact, our model of education is identifying problems over there. So for example, the health and allied science domain would now have to look at healthcare. You go to our hospitals, what problems are there? You may think our medical experts are doing very well, but we have to check on ambulance time, the response time.
I thought the hallmark of every university is to have, yes, like you said, basic things, to have the good lecturers ensuring that the teaching it's on point. But you are talking about, you're so in Pentecost University, is that the case? I mean, do we have quality lecturers? Do we have like a solid research system? But can you answer that?
Akosua, let me explain this. You see, typically people look at universities as teaching institutions, but that's not necessarily so. Once we reduce our universities to teaching universities, then basically somebody has to do the research, do the writing, and come back and teach us. We will remain substandard to those universities that are developing research. And this is why at Pentecost University, we feel that teaching must be the output of research. So don't drive teaching, drive research. Out of your research, document your findings, then you teach. Otherwise, you basically becoming a stamping pad for those who are doing the research.
Right, but during your induction in 2020, you promised again to transform Pentecost University into a world-class university that, trains problem solvers. It's been 2 years.
2 years now, amazing.
What have you achieved so far?
Fantastic. I remember saying that if you meet me anywhere, just ask me what problems are you solving, and I'm glad that I'm at the studio just to respond to that. Basically, we've trained lecturers now to identify problems. So it's no longer just going to the classroom to teach. We are collaborating with industries, internal and external, and thankfully there are a number of them that have signed MOUs with us. So our focus now is to identify industrial problems, economic problems, healthcare problems, church-based problems, and any form of problem you can identify. And our students are released out to work collaboratively with teams over there to solve these problems. And these are reported in conferences, seminars, and workshops. I'll give you a typical example. We found a need for developing local-based technologies, because usually when we talk about technology, we're looking at importing some external things. Therefore, we set out the International Digital Center, look at the problems around. Can we develop tools? Can we develop software? Can we develop basic architecture to solve our needs? If I go into the domain of architecture, you see traditionally people will be looking at 2D drawings. 2D drawings are basically what the customer will just look and perceive how it should be. But we have moved architecture to the level of having a simulation where you can walk through your building before you even put a block on the floor.
So you can print in 3D?
We have 3D printing devices, stereolithographic equipments, and all that.
And
we have invested in that.
What is that going to solve right now? I mean, with the student, what's that going to solve?
It gives them the 3D perspective, a feel of the reality. So basically, anything you can draw, you can print. And it is as simple as that. If we print letters, now we print products. This technology, I don't think is in any institution, but because of our drive to become problem solvers, we have invested heavily into these 3D printers. So all I have to do is to conceptualize what I want to have. We create a CAD model of it. CAD is computer-aided design. Then you just send a file to our 3D printers, and within a short time, you can have your model printed for you. You test it, yes,
Impressive.
absolutely.
But again, looking at the university's mentorship program, how effective has it been?
Right. I inherited a scheme which I felt my predecessor has done very well. So mine was just to add value to it. So there's a structure where students are assigned to lecturers, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they meet at places to go through. For me, this is one of the most transformative programs in that we don't aim just to train skillful people. If you train skillful people alone, you are likely to be deprived of integrity and the things that actually evolve out of human behavior. And this is what the mentorship program is seeking to achieve.
How well are those in charge, faculty, staff, how well are they trained to mentor the student? I also found out that, level 400 first class student are also mentees to some of the students. Why is that? We're all students. Why should someone mentor me, whilst we go to the same
It's
school?
a nice way of preparing the students to be totally independent and also serve as role models onto their colleagues. So if you're in level 400, basically you are just at the bridge of becoming a graduate.
Aren't you segregating? Aren't you creating an environment where, you've already segregated? So we have people who are better, so they see themselves, I'm better off, I'm mentoring, my colleagues. And aren't we creating that environment, sir?
Well, from the outset, it's likely to look that way, but that is how society is built. You need some good examples to serve as role models onto others so that together the society...
Students, level 400 students, so why not all level 400 students? Why would you want to segregate them? What manual are they using for these mentorship programs?
Yes, this typical, why am I in this studio but not any other person?
Great.
So society is built on the model of selecting some people so that other people will set as examples onto them. So what we do, not just in the academics, it's not just those having first class, but those who have lived distinguished life, contributed to university.
How do you measure distinguished lives in the school? We are all students. We came to the school expecting to be impacted by the systems or the values of the school. So again, why would a student, people who have well-lived lives, you mentioned just now, how do you even measure? Akosua is better off, looking at my outward look and what I do. How do you measure that to give that?
Fantastic. That's a great observation. The selection starts from the mentorship group and the recommendation of the mentors, the lecturers who are involved in the day-to-day life of the students. We look at those who are involved actively in university life. We have university assembly programs. We try them time and again.
Which one is that? What's the university assembly program?
A university assembly program is basically the gathering of the university staff and students where the word of God is shared. Practical topics are also preached over there or demonstrated over there. We have well-to-do people in society coming over to talk about their experiences so that the young ones will be motivated.
I see. So going back to that, they join the assembly, and how do you select them again? You said it's not just first class students, so the other ones, so we're talking about that just now.
We check attendance, how often people are coming. Then we also try people on stage to do certain things. Through that, we'll be monitoring to see how they are performing. We give them small group assignment. And I introduce what is called a university challenge at this stage to see how people are problem solving oriented, in other words, solution centered. And during the assignment, for example, the last time it was basically to develop a solution to ease traffic on our roads. you will be surprised the kind of innovative ideas they came. So out of this, we will select some of them so that they can serve as mentors in terms of helping drive the agenda of solution orientation for the young ones. Yeah. Besides that, you see, there are other PENSA. PENSA is Pentecost Students and Association groups. There are other chaplaincy activities. There are other corporate activities, visit to industries and others. So we observe their performance through these activities in addition to their academic life. And this is the basis for our selection.
I see. On the matter of internships, other universities, also have such initiatives, but you realize that they are largely unstructured due to poor contribution between teachers, students, and I'll say industries and that host these students. I want to ask you, I know you have very good internship programs there. How different, again, is your internship approach to other universities?
Great. The first difference has to do with what we provide in-house because our internship starts with the university. So students do not just go on vacation, we create jobs in-house. Some of the contracts that should be given to externals, some of our office duties in terms of project assistants, research assistants, executive assistant, students are interviewed and allowed to participate in this. So our internship starts on campus. Those who do not get this opportunity, thankfully, we are funded by the Church of Pentecost, and by the grace of God, we have a lot of responsible industrialists, stakeholders who also come knocking at our door that we need X number of students to come in to support.
Are they paid?
Us. And that,
are they paid?
Yes, these are paid internship. The campus one is also paid. The whole idea is whilst people struggle to pay their fees, we are also helping them in a way to be sponsored.
Are we broadening the internship programs to other universities? So yes, so if you're from Legon, from wherever, you can come do internship at Pentecost University. Are we opening or broadening the conversation?
We haven't reached that stage, except that for national service, I know there are people from other institutions joining us, but our focus, maybe has been narrowed to our people. The truth of the matter is we want to set a standard for university graduates to see that it is not just what is learned in the classroom, but it's got to be experimented if you want to be a problem solver. And once that is experimented, you go out as a distinct person among your colleagues. So we have focused on Pentecost University students, but maybe in the future we can
I see, but it's great you're paying your interns,
sure,
the students again, but the numbers are quite low. I want to know, why is that? Why aren't they applying to the program?
You mean the numbers towards our internship?
Internship, yes. Those who apply to the program.
I found something very interesting in our Ghanaian student body, in that a lot of them have come to university through scholarship. A lot of them have been sponsored by bodies. So the inner drive to be responsible was limited. So in one of our university assemblies, I had to take time to explain to them that, look, you're coming out as graduates, you must be responsible. I prefer a young person who is working through this internship program and being paid to pay their fees rather than someone who is fully sponsored. The difference is that one will grow up to be responsible and the other one has the tendency of being fully supportive on the system, fully dependent on the system.
Right. So the Chinese program you mentioned some time back, you said the Chinese company, you partnered with the Chinese company. Is that also an internship?
It's an internship, yes. We signed a collaborative memorandum with the TIAS group. Basically, it's an agric firm, and they're looking at establishing cassava plants here and there. So we have students who have signed up to take jobs during vacations with them. And not only that, it's the skill, the training, the logic of thinking that they acquire in the process of time, which is making a great difference in student life.
I see. So overall, has the employability of your students improved, and what are the metrics? How do you even measure that, sir?
Fantastic. Let's step back and look at employability. Generally, universities are set up to provide students with employable skills. But Akosua, the question is, what are these employable skills? Employable skills are not contained in books. Employable skills are the requirement of industrialists and stakeholders. So if you want to create employable skills, then you must start working with industrialists. See problems in industries, invite technicians, engineers, and people who are working out there to come to the university. So if you take a typical module, it is not going to be handled by just a lecturer. He's going to invite somebody from the industry so they can talk about their challenges and issues over there. Then these are used as case studies for our students. So by doing that, although they have not graduated, they are acquiring skills. to be able to solve the problems out there. Besides that, during vacations, they are given tailored programs. A typical example is a pre-engineering program we introduced. What is this about? We looked at engineering companies surrounding Soweto and said that, look, our guys can come there and work. Some could be working as welders, some could be working as fabricators, some could be working as molders and all that. By doing all this, they are gaining the skills that are necessary for the industry. They don't need to finish before they start looking for the skills. And this is making our students way better than the others who are not doing that.
How do you measure? Do you have a system that traces all your students? So it's not like a theory or an idea, but you know that X number of our students are doing fantastic on the job market. Is there a system like that? How do you trace it?
This is a project we have just started by the Business Development and Corporate Affairs Unit. And basically, it's to map up all final years who are exiting, then where they land themselves and the sort of jobs they are doing, and get feedback also from companies on the performance of our students. The first output of this work has been amazing. I was so surprised to see what our alumni are doing out there. Yeah, and I think it's going very well. We may have to intensify the metrics and also follow up, but I'm so convinced that it's looking great at the moment.
I would say mindset is very important over the years. We built a culture where graduates, mostly rely on government jobs. How have you moved away, again, your students from seeking, jobs from the government and to creating their own jobs?
Thank you very much, Akosua, for that. What we have done now is to introduce a mandatory program for all our students. And it is like building a PU culture. What that does is it trains people to be entrepreneurial. It trains people to be responsible. So all students are supposed to go through these training modules until they complete. There's level 100, level 200, up to level 400. That is the enhanced version of the mentorship program I came to meet. So that all students, by the time they are completing, are not just going out to look for jobs. They are also building internal capacity to develop jobs for themselves. This may be very difficult because some of the courses are not geared towards that. But even with that, because we are doing entrepreneurship across board, they have the tendency to spot problems. I could say the reality of it is when we talk about entrepreneurship, sometimes we make it far up there. Yeah. The fundamental truth of entrepreneurship is the skill to identify problems. We are only paid for solving problems. We only increase in our career for solving bigger problems. The bigger your problems, the higher you get recognized for what you do. Ideally, you even get paid higher for solving bigger problems. That is in the fair system, by the way. Yeah. But general entrepreneurship should start from the core to understand problem identification. And this is why we are on the case of problem identification.
COVID-19 came with, its problems. And I want to ask you, how did it affect the university?
Right. Ideally, it should be affecting our university. But on the contrary, we rather benefited from that because we quickly moved. Actually, that was when I had just joined the university. We quickly moved our courses online. So it was a test of how robust our online facilities were. And thankfully, we survived as all our programs were held online. That has also led to newer programs which are now done online and also a larger market because people don't need to travel to Ghana. We now have external students who are joining our program. So our student numbers have increased as a result of COVID-19. And I think that is a positive sign for our current and future growth.
That's great for you, but other businesses suffered a lot during the COVID period. But on the matter of tuition, before COVID, students used to pay 50% tuition before midterm. Now they are required to pay 70%. Sir, considering the economic conditions we face it right now, aren't you being insensitive to that?
That was a difficult challenge we had to face in that the university also had to survive, you see. Before COVID and even during the time of COVID, truly there were expenses that were being incurred and there wasn't adequate funds for us to pay. The immediate source of funds was student fees. So we had to institute a mechanism where students are required to pay. But you see, either way, whether it is during midsem or at the end of the semester, the fees have got to be paid. What I realized was that a larger percentage of them with a little bit of encouragement
students are complaining they liked the previous arrangement better. It was quite flexible. Now they are forced to pay 70%. So again, Are you being fair to that?
I wish we
Looking
could
at
do.
the condition we're in right now.
I wish we could do more than that, because I come from a background that I remember many times when my dad had to write a letter to the headmaster saying, please, can you defer the payment of fees? So anytime I'm asked questions on fees, I become very emotional about it.
So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to reduce it 70% to say 55, 60%? Is it something you want to consider, sir?
Reducing it does not solve the problem, but providing scholarship opportunities so that even if it is 100%, it is less than the 50%.
Prof, how flexible are these scholarship schemes? Great. How many students can actually get these scholarship schemes?
So you know what we're working on? Just last night, I was in a serious conversation, and I'm so convinced that within a matter of few years, Pentecost University is going to roll out a scholarship scheme, which is applicable.
How many years are we talking about? Is it like
a year or two?
Great.
A year or two. For now, we all have
Pentecost
to work.
University are going to get what? I didn't get that thing.
Full scholarship, to the extent that it doesn't require people. I mean, there can be full scholarship to a whole cohort. The reason is that we've mapped out a scheme called the Church of Pentecost Chairman's Education Foundation. I returned from a trip far up north, and this was a major campaign we were saying. We were looking at a population of about 3.3 million. And if each individual is able to give 1 Ghana cedis in a month, we're talking about 3.3 million. What foundation can be bigger than that? We can generate internal fund, because I have great passion. Whilst I taught the Oti region all the way to northern region, my sister, the reality of the matter is that people are in need. Economic levels are low. I'm so burdened by the payment of fees.
But
wish
sir,
we
can't wait a year or two.
Yeah.
We can't wait a year or two for you to put yourself together. We're asking that just reduce it 55%, 60%. Just think about it again with your people.
The system is likely to collapse if we do that. We should look at the end-term effect. We have survived a period of time. It's just a matter of a year or two. It could be lesser than that, but I'm so convinced that very soon, and truly very soon.
We should hang in there, guys.
Oh yeah, everyone should work out. Yeah.
Right. So, but pastors contribute, a lot. I mean, the Church of Pentecost pastors contribute a lot to the university. For example, I know that the Makion Auditorium was built from the contributions of the pastors of the Church of Pentecost. Does the university pay special attention to the works of pastors? For example, giving them a discount in tuition fees?
Not at the moment. I know the pastors contributed a lot, but the beauty of all sacrifices in the Church of Pentecost is the drive towards humanity. So it is not like what in the Ghanaian context we would call susu. And this mentality have got to be worked on, because if we are not careful, we will operate giving as if it is susu, as if I've given, therefore give it back to me. I've given. That is not a good model. In my personal case,
these are stakeholders. And knowing the problems of pastors, they are not paid so much. So at least just to say, well, it's not really about, building the auditorium, but just to say, we know you are with us. So just something to motivate you to even bring more of your children to the university. Comes to look at an arrangement like that for them.
We can definitely do that in the future. But I'm grateful to the heart of all COP ministers, because it is towards sacrifice, towards humanity.
But letters have been written, letters have been written to the university for you to consider. Have you just thrown it away? Have you?
There's been instances clearly where we have had to help. For example, a pastor has passed on, the ward is still in the school. We should be able to help provide scholarships, and we're doing everything possible to sustain the children.
On a larger scale, what are you doing to help pastors' wards or children who are in the school? Is a discount going to happen anytime soon?
Generally, and I'll be honest with you, generally the drive is not to necessarily segregate a group of people to say that because your parents have contributed X amount, we are therefore giving it to you. That wasn't the promise that was given at the time. If we are not careful, we will be introducing a concept which, when you scale it up to the church, is going to mean that because I've given my tithes, give me this back. We should be careful with that. We give with a sacrificial heart towards God and also towards humanity, if
Pentecost Hospital contributes to the needs of pastors, I mean, when you go to the hospital, your wife, your children, they can be taken care of at a certain age. Why can't the school adopt that same model?
The school
it's so by the church. So again, throwing it back to you, the church could have said no again with the tithe thing, give it back, pay your own hospital bill. So if you can do that for health, why can't we do that for education, which is one of the most important things in every society?
We definitely can do that, and truly we are doing that through other mechanisms. There are scholarships at the area level, although it's equally competitive. But I fully get your point. Maybe it's something we have to look at and see how we can extend further assistance to pastors' children. Great. And I'll work on that.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much. You're still watching The Hard Truth. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching The Hard Truth. Vice-Chancellor of Pentecost University, Professor Kwabena Agyapong-Kodua. I love the name. It's still here. Now, you want to turn Pentecost University into a research-focused university, and one of the indicators of the university's performance is the number of, the publications that are coming from the faculty. How are you performing in terms of research output?
Right, thank you very much. In terms of the number of publications, actually our model is quite different from what traditional institutions will be looking at, because our assessment is not based on the number of publications. If you want to change an institution to research-based, then it should rather be the citation index. Let me just clarify that. You can write X number of papers, but who cares? The key metric should be who is using what you have written. And that is why our focus is on citation index. So it is not enough to write
What is
about...
that? What's that?
Great.
Citation?
So it's not enough to write about economics. It's not enough to write about Mokola and all that, but rather who is using the knowledge you have disseminated out there. So we rather use citation index. So if you Google any of our academics now, you should be rather looking at the citation index. Is Google mapped as in who is citing what you have published? You get a difference. Traditional institutions may be looking at how many papers I've written. Oh yeah, he's written 8 papers, he's 12 papers, he's an associate professor. But rather we are looking at how many people have cited what you have written. And this is what drives the research.
How many do we have so far?
How many papers?
Yeah,
it's going to be very difficult to be specific, but the focus is on faculty per faculty and each individual. For example, to rise to become a senior lecturer, then you need a citation index, or what is usually termed in the academy, the H index of not less than 7. Then it carries on to 15, it carries on and all that. So it's purely an index that is measured as a result of how many people are citing the work you have done.
Sir, in pushing your agenda in transforming the university, I'm sure it wasn't that rosy in your case. So what were some of the challenges, that threatened or derailed your efforts?
Right, it was a great challenge for me. The reality is, like we all know, it's very difficult. Sorry to use this adage. It's very difficult. Sorry to use this adage. let me repeat myself on that. It's difficult to train old dogs new tricks.
Right.
Yeah. So you've got to let people appreciate what they are going to get out of the new move. So there were a lot of consultations, a lot of discussions at the top level, selling the vision, telling people that guys, we can make a difference, we can do it better than any other person. The model is not in Ghana, but we can set ourselves out as distinct. Yes, people are buying in it. Now, when I hear of the university A+ agenda, all at the department level, I'm so amazed that lecturers and faculty members, administrators are all in consonance with what we are talking about. Do you mind me touching on the university A+ agenda? Basically, well, all of us or most of us are products of the traditional institutions, so great respect to them because they form the fabric of our thinking, they trained us and all that. So we classify what is already in existence as University A. But my question is, if we have to just become like them, then there is no need of setting up a private university. So we use what they have as a starting point and build other models on top of that. And this is the plus on top of that. So it is not enough to teach nursing just as they do. We have to do something more than the teaching of nursing, as in, for example, through our International Digital Center. If it is midwifery, do you actually need a pregnant woman before you understand delivery? No. Get into the virtual world. You can have digital mannequins. You can do all your experiments. This level is not provided by any institutions. So if you're a university A+, step on what is already existing and provide new models.
We are expecting an university A class to have certain environment for, you mentioned that you need to have a build on from what other universities are doing. And environment or infrastructure plays an important role. We know that, you have a drainage system. Let's go infrastructure. We know you have a drainage system, water shortages and all of that. Yabwa Hall, Anan Hall, these other halls, Safo Hall. It's not in good shape. So what are you doing? How are you fixing these problems?
Major challenge.
A university
for us,
A plus
University
should have
A+,
a great infrastructure. How are we fixing this?
Well, in our terminology, we call it an enabling system, an enabling infrastructure. I fully admit we're not there yet, but we're working towards. You see, if you have the best of infrastructure and the mindset is wrong, give yourself 5-10 years, it's going to collapse. You're going to come back to naught. So the focus is not necessarily overnight building new infrastructure if the mindset is not focused on achieving excellence. Thankfully, through the Church of Pentecost, buildings are being constructed. We currently have a 4-story building that we are setting, and we're going to have our
refurbishment. We are not asking for a new thing. What a refurbishment for the Safo Hall, for Anan Hall.
You need to.
System,
I'm sure it's a long time you came to campus because I'm sure it's a long time you visited Pentecost University. There's been
students are training or they are complaining right now. Last week you had your awards night, excellence awards night, shortage of water, big deal. And this is not like the first time it has happened. What are you doing to solve the shortage of water at the university? Shortage
of water would be strange because we have internal boreholes, so it could be a problem with a pump or something like that, which definitely will be worked at.
Can't you create more pumps, to solve some of these issues?
Water is not generally a problem on campus, except the functioning of pumps. Of course, pumps are old and older. So it's not the water, but it's the distribution of the water, which we have identified and working on. But Christian, my joy in all of this, last night, there was a heavy downpour during the afternoon. Yeah. I was driving to campus. Seriously, I had to park my car on the way. I couldn't drive to campus. The place was flooded. All this time, people have been telling me about the flooding situation, but it was just yesterday that I experienced it myself. I was not bogged down at all. All I did was to walk through the water, go to the construction department. I had a head of department, gathered some students around me. Then I told them that, look, we are the problem solvers. We must solve this flooding situation. I was amazed the sort of ideas the students brought. Because they just give us a month and you see the difference over there.
I want to know the interventions they brought. Yeah.
Amazing. They just said, look, the cause of this flooding is because there is waste materials missing with the flow of the water and there's nothing to sieve it. So what they did was just to define a wire gauze and put it under some stainless steel brackets and all that. And let us create vantage places where these sieves can be erected in such a way that the mud does not come together with the water. And our drainage system, is going to work on that. So these problems, you see, the University A+ agenda is not overlooking the reality of problems. We admit that there are problems, but problems do not kill us. They are a starting point and we're providing solutions. So being it infrastructure, being it refurbishment, the key thing is identifying them. Then we map up a solution to achieve them. This is the source of my excitement.
Great, but in doing all of this, alumni plays an important role. You said you have a solid relationship with them. Are you robbing them in solving these problems, the alumni?
Great. There is a meeting where we're going to go at a regional level, meeting all alumni. I'm not personally impressed by the contribution of alumni. I asked about the last meeting, and jokingly, I was saying that the first alumni group that meets and is sponsored by the university is Pentecost University alumni. So I'm looking for alumni. And during the last matriculation, I made a statement, and I'm sure alumni at Pentecost University will be hearing that I said alumni provide hospitals on campus. They provide beds. They provide boreholes. They provide blankets. So I was just listing a lot of things that they can also do to help the university because we all belong to other.
There's no relationship between the school and alumni. So how do you expect us to come to your aid when you need people like that?
Wow, I'm glad I could share you an alumni. And this conversation, I guess, is building relationship and friendship, and it will be passed on to all other guys who have completed uni at Pentecost University. But here, my message to all alumni is the freshness has come. And this is time to work together to ensure that Pentecost University indeed becomes the university A+ that we are talking about. We're going to come at the regional level, having consultative meetings, sharing ideas, and drawing you closer. We're looking for them to come back to help the university because this is the best they can offer for their institution. Yeah.
Right, but moving away from that, I'm sure you visited some world best universities when you compare. Let's look at the comparison now. When you compare these universities to what is practiced in Ghana, what are we lacking?
All right. To start with, we are a private university, Akosua. So in terms of infrastructure, what government should contribute, what is given to the publicly funded university is not given to us. Just to even look at salaries, those in the public institutions are paid salaries. So when there are fees charged, for example, law, which is 1,500 from KNUST, our law is about 4,000. And the question is, why such a big difference? It's all because the cost from the publicly funded university is borne by the government. But in our case, we have to raise our own money. So you see that the difference will be so sharp as far as fees is concerned. But my greatest commitment to all who desire to come to Pentecost University, I'm working towards a time when education would also become free and very cheap at Pentecost University. So in terms of a difference, this is clear in terms of pricing. Yeah.
But again, it's become very clear that our educational system needs focus on it. They need to focus more on impacting relevant skills to enable our youth to meet the demands of the changing job market. So when you look around again, the country, we are pushing, or are we pushing hard enough in addressing the poor linkages between education and industry? Are we pushing hard enough?
During my investiture, this was one of the things, Akosua, I mentioned, which is a driver now at Pentecost University to ensure that our institution collaborates very well with industries. But if I look at it with an overall perspective, I don't think that is the case at all. The gap between industrial requirements or stakeholder requirements and what universities provide is wide in that, you see, the trouble is simple. We have people who were very bright, and this I say with great caution, but it's the truth. They were very bright. They had scholarships to go and do their masters either in the UK, US. They did their PhDs, they came back. They have little engagement with practicalities of life. They're very brilliant, great respect to all of them. They have not, in quote, worked in industries, they have not worked in economic sectors, legal sectors, and all that. And these are the frontliners imparting knowledge to the younger generation. What should we expect? We also need another group of people, whether they did well or not. If they are practitioners, they must be invited back to the university. From my own experience, when I was studying, lectures were not conducted by one person. The lecturer is brilliant, he's got his PhD and all that, but in all his deliberations, he's bringing in other practitioners to also impact knowledge from us. Until we do that, the gap is going to widen. This is why clearly at Pentecost University, we're using a model where industrialists are partakers of what we study over there, because I feel this is a gap that must be closed up in Ghana.
Great, but private universities again have played, I would say, an important role in expanding access to tertiary education in this country. And it has been the view of the leadership of several private universities that, they enjoy the best support from government. Do you agree to this?
Right. Such questions requires deeper analysis of what they have enjoyed. Possibly, yes, every government will be doing its best to support its citizens. So generally, governments are doing well to support private institutions, but I would expect that more would be done. Look at it this way.
What specifically are we looking for?
Right. Let me give a thorough analysis of it. Look at it this way. Anytime we're mentioning government and its funds, we should be careful to realize that essentially it's coming from the taxpayer. Whether private or state-funded, the students over there are supported by their parents or by individuals who are also paying tax. I would expect that whatever is given to students in public-funded institutions should also be given to private institutions. I'm glad now there is news about scholarships also being funded and get funded.
Government knew they couldn't handle that, so they said, okay, we've opened it up for private universities to also come on board. So they are assuming that you should have the environment or the resources to handle some of these things. Don't you agree?
Yeah. If government leaves it that way, then he's just contributing to private institutions just becoming a business venture. So you will charge as much as you need to become economically viable. But I don't think that is good in the interest. Okay, when we talk about graduates, the reality of it is It's because we need X number of lawyers. That is why we have some studying at Legon and all these places and the private institute. All these people are coming to contribute to the economy of our nation. So governments must be interested in what is going on in private institutions, because if it is nursing midwives, those who are graduating through private institutions count. They contribute to the total requirements for the nation. But if it's left like that, then of course some are going to pay heavily, and when they finish, they come and they cannot even compete with their colleagues. I'll be very interested.
Well, I'm thinking government is supposed to create a enabling environment for private universities in your case to thrive. Isn't that the case? And they're supposed to just create an environment for you to thrive.
The environment includes financial sustenance,
and what else?
support.
So you mentioned that. So what else?
Financial sustenance, infrastructure, the contribution of resources towards development, scholarship for students, not just that, scholarship also for staff, for further studies. But thankfully, I must be honest with you, with Pentecost University, when we accepted or had the award from the government on the pre-engineering program, the government has done great. We have even been promised a bus to commute students here and there. So there is that investment, don't get me wrong, going on, except that I feel that more should be done in terms of developing the necessary infrastructure, developing the necessary scholarship scheme, promotion mechanisms also for staff, so that basically what the taxpayer is contributing towards government is also brought back to the individuals who are working in the private sector. I feel a lot can be done in that respect.
How do you find our Minister for Education?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, he's
Why
a friend.
Why would you say that?
He is a friend, Honorable Dr. Yawa Dichum.
Yes, he's your friend, but let's talk about performance. I mean, is he performing?
Right, so great greetings to him. He's a member also of the Council of Pentecost University. We talk a lot. He's contributing to it. But let's be broad in this discussion as far as his performance is concerned. Education is a great challenge in this country. The reason is that the models are slightly different from internationally required models, as in we've started and we are thinking that we need to develop, we need to do A, we need to do B. But if we really want to address the problems of this world, of this country, then we actually would have to do it bit by bit. So no matter what a person does now is going to be very difficult.
You're still watching The Hard Truth. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Hard Truth. Vice-Chancellor of Pentecost University, Professor Agyapong-Kodua is still here. Prof, let's look at this. President Konadu indicated last year that his government was considering taking tertiary education free or making tertiary education free. What are your thoughts on that? You just mentioned that right now, but from the government perspective, what are your thoughts on tertiary education, free tertiary education?
Thank you very much, Akosua. I'm glad you've asked this question. Any support from anywhere, whether government or any institution, to make education accessible to the poor is something that I would support.
From government?
From government, absolutely. If they can do that, yeah, fair enough. That's really good. Except that in addition to providing anything that is free, adequate training must be made on the mindset of those who are receiving the free education. My fear with that is we should be careful not to create a young generation who thinks that the world is free and things should be obtained free. So anytime any package is given as free, there must be adequate or rudimentary steps to ensure that the beholders or the beneficiaries of such free packages also know what has contributed to free. Because the reason is, whenever we talk about something being free, we should remember that somebody is paying for it, because any activity we engage in creates cost. So there is nothing like free. Somebody is responsible for paying for it. That is why the beneficiary is not paying anything. So yes, I would support that, but we should also work on the mindset.
In you supporting it, are you so aware that free SHS is already constraining government's finances? So do you believe that it's a good time to have such initiative?
Right. I'm sure politicians would have to engage with this carefully because documents will be presented to Parliament, and it's my expectation that the experts over there will take their time to work out the indicators. If free SHS is already a struggle and we're talking about free tertiary education, I will be asking the question of where the means of funds is coming from and how this is going to be sustained over the years. If there are adequate indications that this is feasible, why not? But if there are gaps, then they should be reinforced to see how this. My bottom line, Akosua, is that people should be supported to learn. If we educate everyone, we are educating our country, whether free or any means of support provided through external organizations. That will be preferred in its sense.
So even if it's going to collapse our budget or it's going to collapse the economy with it's huge. That amount allocated to free SHS is huge. And you want to add on tertiary education free. That's what I'm asking you. Do you think we should encourage free tertiary education
if it's going to collapse our budget, then the thinking is wrong. Yeah, because education is supposed to enlighten us. Why would education, that same thing we are investing in, end up destroying the economy? Except when, if we are doing it now and it's not appropriate, then we may want to postpone it into a future. There isn't free education necessarily outside of Africa, and this is my fear with the terminology of free. Look at the West and all these places. You are giving student loan to pay for your fees. If you're a citizen over there, you work towards it. Afterwards, it's recouped. You get it back into the system, so the pot is recycled. I would expect broader thinking, an overarching perspective or agenda towards education in Ghana so that it does not become a political tool. This is my fear. If it is an agenda just to inspire and encourage some individuals to cast votes a certain direction, then we are in for a wrong gain. But we should be looking at the overall perspective and how sustainable these models are. And
so
I think
again,
that
do
will
you
hold.
think government is just, engage rhetoric? Are they just?
I haven't engaged in the details at all.
Optimistic about this whole idea.
It's good to be optimistic, but I haven't engaged with the details, so it's very difficult for me to conclude on it as to whether it's the right direction. But I'm only providing a framework, as in education should be supported by all, but we should look at the indices, the metrics to see whether it is sustainable. Otherwise, it's dangerous.
Right. Recently, it emerged that government released an amount of 25 million Ghana cedis as seed money for the construction of the National Cathedral. And many Ghanaians, took exceptions to this, questioning government's priorities. Looking at the current economic crisis we find ourselves in right now, where do you stand on this?
I'm sure you need Professor Pokunyina retired to respond to that. He's the chairman of the board for the National Cathedral, right? So, well, let me reserve my comments on that. But I guess fundamentally, and this is my heart cry, we should look at a national pathway to ensuring great sustainability in our country. I have no problem about any investment the government is making, but decision makers, especially at the political level, should look at it.
District Assembly Common Funds in arrears, for a number of years, textbooks and basic schools have not been provided. Capitation grant is in arrears, several things in arrears. So with all these problems, is it a good time for this disbursement?
Well, I've had a chat with Professor Pokunyina. I mentioned his name earlier on. He's a retired minister of the Church of Pentecost, the former chairman, and now the former chairman of the Church of Pentecost, and now the chairman of the Board of Trustees. I was quite concerned and I asked a number of questions, but his explanations to the model was like, oh, okay, we're building something for the future. As to whether the timing is right, I think we can all judge based on the factors that we are observing through the budgets and all that. But in terms of the vision...
your voice counts. Whatever you say really counts. So from where you sit, being the Vice-Chancellor, you are providing solutions to our problems in the university.
This is a difficult solution.
Exactly.
Right.
So we take it. So is it the right time for government to do disbursement, 25 million Ghana cedis? Whilst other areas are in arrears?
I'll struggle with direct response to this question in that I have not studied the figures, and unfortunately, I have not followed the things very well. But my response would be in the general sense that let's look at our priorities. If funds are not available for other day-to-day things needed by communities, then I'll be very careful what I invest in. But in terms of the conceptual understanding of what is required, according to what Professor Opokunyina shared with me, it's got long-term benefit. And I'm also aware that churches are being called to support. So what I'm fully aware is the support coming from churches. But that of the government, I'm sure parliamentarians would have to look into that more carefully. If it is not required, why not? We shouldn't push ourselves towards it at all.
Is the current government living up to your expectation now? Do you think this government is living up to your expectation? Your expectation, I would say.
Living to my expectation, because you're pushing me to the wall. But honestly, I haven't been, well, sorry to say, in the country or even in my role for a very long time. I need a bit more time to observe and also analyze before.
Cost of living has been so high, sir. Again, let me remind you, refresh your memory. Cost of living has been super high, I would say. Many Ghanaians are putting the blame on, on the doorstep of the government. So do you disagree with them that isn't cost of living high for you? Are you okay?
It has to be compared with a previous time, which I wasn't around. So it's very difficult for me to measure.
Doesn't matter. We voted for a particular government because we expect you to perform. So why would we stay in the government? So I don't think that's...
I wasn't even here during the time of voting.
Exactly. So now we have a government who says, I am going to provide for my people. I'm asking you, with the cost of living high and all the things that you hear, transport, food and all of that. Again, is the government living up to expectations?
If the cost of living is high, transportation, high school fees, high...
Aren't you aware... And you live in this country, aren't you aware that the cost of living in this country is high?
The cost of living is definitely high, but don't forget Ukraine-Russian issues, the global economy.
We had those
and
issues
also,
before the war started.
Fantastic. This is why I feel that Ghanaians can best judge. We all can best judge. Because if the situation was bad at that time and it's still bad, come on. We voted the government into power. We have expectations. We should all measure and take our decisions. It would be very unfair on my side, having not fully assessed the situation, to give a public statement on whether a government is doing well or not. It is not in my bid to do that, but just clearly to throw the ball out to individuals to also observe. Of course, you can see when transportation has gone up, but we should also be careful to understand what leads to inflation, what leads to the rising cost of living, what leads to that, so that it is not as if... By the way, this is my problem with Ghanaian governments, because sometimes we promise what I feel we cannot deliver, looking at the circumstances around. Some things are better done in the future, and it cannot be done now.
So do you think government should set their priorities right?
I definitely think so, yes.
Right.
Yes, and it should be worked carefully.
I see. You have, I would say, an impressive record as an engineer, as academic, researcher, a leader, and a reverend minister, an apostle.
Yes, of the Church of Pentecost.
One of the biggest churches in Ghana. We've always advocated for our men of God to venture into politics. So I'm asking you, you have all the qualifications to lead this country as president. Will you be, Prof, would you be interested in becoming the president of Ghana someday?
That's a good question. Last night, I asked our chairman, and he didn't give me a response, whether he would be happy to go into politics. So I also give the same response. He was quiet, so I'm quiet on that. We follow our leaders. But look, from the Church of Pentecost perspective, approach to politics is that we believe we've got to possess nations. We are the people to influence decision making. I don't think we would hesitate in supporting any individual who ventures into politics.
I'm asking you, with all your qualifications, you as a person, come on, look at you, sir. Look at your qualifications. Look at you. You've done so well for yourself. And don't you think Ghana needs your brains?
I'm a reverend minister. I'm satisfied. I'm a vice-chancellor. I'm satisfied. I'm an engineer. I'm satisfied.
I thought,
the
pulpit advises that, and they preach to, dream big, and God can do bigger things and aspire for. So why are you comfortable here? Do you think you can be the president of this country someday?
I leave the future in the hands of God, yes. And that has always been my life. I never dreamt of becoming a vice-chancellor, Akosua, if I'll be honest with you. I never even dreamt of having a PhD. I've always believed in one thing, working hard at the little that I'm entrusted to. So and this has been my principle.
Whilst you're working hard, do you have dreams? Oh, okay, so it could happen. So has that, occurred to you that maybe I could be the president of Ghana?
In my current role, it never came to me as a dream, so I don't think my future role will come to me as a dream. It's not something I'm expecting at all.
I think so. Yeah. We know Pentecost University as a Christian university. Some have, intimated, however, that you impose certain policies which restricts the social lives of your students. Will we ever see a Shatawale or a Sarkodie, for example, performing ever at Pentecost University?
Good question. I'm not too sure how to reply this. Okay. One time I was asked this question, and I asked the person that if you ever went to the military or police force, fire service, or even nursing or midwifery, and there was a nurse in uniform, are you at one point in time going to say that, oh yeah, I want to be a nurse, but I don't want to wear the uniform? And the response is no. So once you decide to come to Pentecost University, there are rules and regulations. So your acceptance to come to Pentecost University or make any function at Pentecost University means abiding by the rules. So if the rules say no, then I don't expect it to be there.
So that means that Shatawale or Sarkodie can never perform at Pentecost University?
He is more than welcome to come there, but he will perform according to the rules of Pentecost University.
What's the rules of the Pentecost University? What's the rules again?
We provide a godly environment, very supportive, very encouraging.
So they can't sing their songs at Pentecost University campus?
I haven't even followed their song to know what type of song they sing, but I'm only interested in the policies I have at Pentecost University. I care less about what anyone does, but if you come into Pentecost University, then you must play by the rules of Pentecost University. It's just like any foreign entity coming to Ghana. They must play by the rules of Ghana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Professor Kwabena Agyapong-Kodua is the Vice-Chancellor of Pentecost University. Please send your thoughts on our social media platforms on your screens right now. Catch a repeat of the program again on Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. the same channel. My name is Nana Akosua, Konadu Asante-Samuels, and you've been watching The Hard Truth. Thank you so much for staying with us. Have a good evening.